Hello, today we're going to talk about percent increase and decrease problems. So one of the things that it might ask you to do is to find the absolute change in a product. So the absolute change is the actual increase or decrease. And so here we are just going to subtract, and to stay consistent, I'm going to call it the new value minus the old value. The old value might be the original value. It might be the starting amount. So that is what we're going to call new minus old. Student housing tends to be rented per room. In 2022, the average was $550 per room, and in 2023, the same room was rented for $695. What was the absolute change between the two rental prices? All right, so the old amount, which was in 2022, is $550. And the new amount, which is the 2023 rent, is $695. So to find the absolute change, we're just going to go new minus old. So we're going to take $695 minus $550, and $145 is the absolute change, and $145 is your increase in rent over that year. It might ask for the relative change. The relative change is a fraction that describes the absolute change in comparison to the start value. All right, so the absolute change we just did. So this is new minus old divided by old, because it says in comparison to the start value. We know that the starting amount is the old amount. So this is the formula we're going to use. So if I wanted to find the relative change in housing prices here, so your new value is $695 minus your old value of $550 divided by your old value of $550. I already did the math. In the numerator, we have 145 divided by 550. And I got 0.2636, and I'm going to change this to a percent, so I'm going to move it 2 places to the right, and I'm going to say it went up about 26%. All right, so we have about a 26% increase here. You buy a computer 3 years ago for $100. Today, it is worth $100. Find the relative change. All right, so our old amount is $1,000, and your new amount is $300. So we have a decrease, so it's going to go down. So I'm going to follow my formula here, new minus old divided by old. So that means I have 300 minus 1,000 divided by 1,000. So I have negative 700 divided by 1,000. Negative 700 divided by 1,000 equals negative 0.7. And so I tend to want to turn that into a percent, so I'm going to move it 2 places to the right. And so I have negative 70%. So, well, this is the answer. If you saw this on a multiple choice, or you had to summarize it, I would probably say it lost 70% of its value, or the value decreased 70%. So in a typical answer, it's not going to have negative 70%. It would use words like lost or decrease instead. We might have to get this information from a table of values. So we have median income for some years, and we also have consumer price index values for a couple years. Number 3 says, what's the absolute change, median income, from 13 to 16? All right, so I'm looking at these 2 years. So in 54,462, that is my old amount. 59,039 is my new amount. So the absolute change, the formula is just new minus old. So I'm going to take the 59,039 minus 54,462, and I get 4,577. And so this says that the median income increased 4,500 from 2013 to 2016. The next problem says, okay, but what was the relative change? But thank goodness we have this same period of time. So the formula is new minus old divided by old. So you can keep putting that in there, or you can say, well, I just found that number. I can just use the 4,577, and the old number is 54,462. And when I divide those two numbers, I get 0.084. I moved it 2 places to the right. And so I said this was about an 8% increase. The next couple problems are pretty much the same. I'm going to skip to number 7 on our notes. So Taylor is, there we go. We want to compare these two. So basically we're just going to do the same thing for each individual and then compare it. Taylor's salary goes from 42 to 49. Joe's salary goes from 51 to 59. The first one says, who has the higher absolute salary increase? So for Taylor's, an absolute just means that you just subtract. So we're going to take 49,000 minus 42,000. And so this person had a $7,000 increase. Joe went from 59,000, no, other way around. I'm going to subtract these two numbers. And Joe has an $8,000 increase. So it says, who has the higher absolute salary increase? So Joe has the higher absolute. Am I on the screen? Pretty much. Then it says, okay, but who has the higher relative salary increase? So for Taylor, when we take her old minus new, all right, we're going to take old minus new. No, we don't. I'm so sorry. New minus old divided by old is the formula. So Taylor, her new minus old, we just found was $7,000. And her old salary is that $42,000 number. And when I take 7,000 divided by 42,000, I get 0.166666. So I'm going to say that she has about a 17% increase. Joe's, when I do that, her new minus old, we just figured was $8,000, and her old salary is $51,000. When I divide these two numbers, I get 0.1568. If you move your decimal over and then take rounding into account, this person has about a 16% increase. And so therefore, Taylor has the higher relative increase. So just because a person has the higher absolute, when you take it in comparison to their salaries, that might not be the same answer from part A to part B, and it's not. Number 8, it uses the phrase percent change. Well, percent change is just another way of saying relative change. So we're still going to go new minus old divided by old. So if it asks for a percent change, we're still following this format. In 2008, you bought a house for $75,000. You sold it for $87,000. What is the percent increase in value? All right, so $75,000 is my old amount. $87,000 is my new amount. So when I substitute these values in, 87,000 minus 75,000 divided by 75,000. And here I got 0.16, which is about a 16% increase in the value of the home. And I think everything else is basically a review.